Hi, I'm Paul Comfort. Welcome to this edition of Transit Unplugged. Today we talk with Brad Thomas, the CEO of First Transit. First Transit is a large company that operates paratransit, fixed route, airport shuttle, campus shuttles all over North America. We'll ask Brad about the size of his company, the history of his company, and also what the role is of private contracting in our public transit business. All here today on this edition of Transit Unplugged.
What does it mean to be a successful public transit agency? What are you doing to lead the way? It's time to learn from the top transit professionals in North America. This is Transit Unplugged with your host, Paul Comfort.
Hi, I'm Paul Comfort. Welcome to our national podcast, Transit Unplugged. Today, I'm excited to have with me as our guest, Brad Thomas, the president of First Transit. We were just talking a minute ago. I think Brad is the longest-serving CEO of one of our transit partners who run contract agencies in the country. Welcome, Brad.
And nice to be here, Paul.
Yeah. So, Brad, tell us about yourself some and your background, and how did you end up as CEO of First Transit, one of the biggest companies in the world?
It's always an interesting story. I think nobody plans really to necessarily to get into this business. It always seems like you have a interesting story. Everyone has their own. I actually started just out of grad school doing grants administration in the healthcare industry, believe it or not. And I was, reading the paper one day back when you used to read the classifieds, and I saw an opportunity for a grants administrator for a small transportation company in upstate New York. I'd gone to college in upstate New York.
Where at? All my
I'd gone to Cortland State for undergrad and Binghamton University for grad school.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Where'd you get your grad degree in?
Public administration.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had just gotten out of there, really, and I'd been working, working in the healthcare industry a little bit. And I saw this ad for a grants administrator job, so I called on it, interviewed. It was a small transportation company upstate New York. They had about 4 contracts at the time, I think. And they hired me. And I think, I was probably the first, certainly the first grants administrator they had. At the time, we were working in a lot of large rural communities, and we were creating transit systems in these communities. And they didn't really have the infrastructure or the staff or the resource, the clients didn't, to really handle all of the grant work and all of the contract work and all of that went behind it. So we would come in and basically say, listen, we'll not only run your system, but we'll also do all of the other work. So we'll administer all the grant work.
Yeah.
We'll work with the contracts.
And you were the guy that did it.
I was the guy that did it. Yeah. So I used to, basically we would prepare all the grant work for these communities, both the urban and sometimes they got rural, and sometimes you got a little bit of urban money as well, urban grant funding. So I did that, and it was a really great opportunity because I got in on the ground floor of a very small organization. It allowed me to do a little bit of everything. I started doing grants, and I started doing contracts, and then I negotiated some union agreements. I did things like that early on. But then, it was such a small organization, and we were growing that it allowed me to get into all sorts of things. And, before I knew it, I was working in operations. So I got into, to that part of the business as well. And like I say, it was interesting in the sense that I got a little taste of everything. So and then as the company grew, I grew. So ultimately,
what was the name of the company, if you can say?
That company was called Progressive Transportation Services, which was upstate New York. Yeah,
I remember that.
We did. We had a few contracts. We had Dutchess County, New York, Clinton County, New York.
I bid against you, I think, in Dutchess.
Is that
when
right?
I was with Mayflower. Yeah.
We still have that contract today.
Is that right?
We did. And Chemung County, which was really the kind of the heart of the company, and where I started, my office was. So I did that for we did that for a while, and we grew the company, and before you knew it, we had 5 contracts, maybe, and 6 contracts, and we kept growing. And one day we got a call from a company named Coach USA.
Okay, yeah.
Coach USA was rolling up transportation companies around the country.
Yes.
Mostly charter and tour and some taxi companies, and but they were interested in some transit as well. So We got in to that roll up about, I think it was on the second round, and that was 1996. And we started operating under the name Coach USA Transit Services. And what Coach did smartly, I think, at the time was all of these little companies that they had bought had a lot of tour and a lot of charter, but they always had these little transit contracts. Oh, when I got this transit contract, I had this little contract. I don't know what to do with it. I just got it, kind of thing. And they did, yeah. And so what they did smartly, I think, is they said, you know what, we're going to centralize all that. We're going to put those all together. So we took all of those contracts, plus all the contracts that Progressive brought to the table together, and we made Coach USA Transit Services. So
that was you.
That was us. That's right. That was us. And that was cool. From 1996 on till about 1999. We kind of grew that, and really had a great time. We were, a smaller company, but we had a national footprint, which was nice with all of these different contracts all over. And then in 1999, Stagecoach came and came calling, and they bought all of Coach USA.
Okay.
And so then we started operating again. We kept the name Coach USA, but it was a Stagecoach company, and we continued on again, growing. And then in 2000, I became the president of Coach USA Transit Services, which is a small transportation. Like I say, it's a smaller compared to today, but it was quite big then, certainly for me. And I took over there as president in 2000 of that division, and ran that division for about 3 years. And then in 2003, First Group came along, and First Group bought the transit division of Coach USA. Okay. Because Stagecoach at the time was selling exiting some of the organizations and selling. So First was able to buy the division that I was running, and that was great. And I came on there, and I actually took over the East region for First Group, First Transit, and ran the East region, which was a big business, just in and of itself, and ran that division from about 2003 until 2009.
When did you all buy ATE? How'd they get involved?
Oh, geez, no. Well, ATE is the first. That's the first company. That's 1955 ATE. So that was that was Dave Ringo, really, in the start of the company. Okay, But through the years,
Pete Kuiper, my buddy, we used to work with you all and all that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's amazing because I tell my story of just how many times we were sold, we were bought, we were sold, we were bought. But that happened all over the industry. So everyone's got their stories, don't they?
You bought my company, Laidlaw.
I think, exactly. That's right. So, that's right. So 2007, First bought Laidlaw. And really ultimately doubled the size of the transit division.
And that included Greyhound, right?
It did. We bought Greyhound, and we also bought the school bus division.
Right.
So it really it was a massive acquisition in 2007.
And then did you split off school to become like First Student? First
Student, yeah. It was First Student operates separately as a yellow bus contracting division, and Greyhound operates separately.
Okay.
As a
but you still own that.
We still own them.
First Group owns it.
There's actually 5 divisions of First Group. So there's 2. There's a bus division and a rail division in the UK, and then there's Greyhound, school bus, and transit.
Okay.
In the US.
So First is it a publicly traded company?
It is London Exchange.
Okay.
Yep. We are, and we're a UK company, but we have a headquarters here in Cincinnati, which is where I operate from.
I was going to ask you about that. So you have family there and all that? Or?
I do. Actually, I was born and raised outside of just north of New York City in the Hudson Valley, and I went to college upstate, and I stayed upstate for the job, so I kind of lived upstate for a bunch of years, met my wife, and we had a couple of kids up there, and then this promotion came in 2009, and they asked me to move to Cincinnati, and we moved in 2009, and I got to tell you, we absolutely love it. We love it. We love the Midwest. We love Cincinnati. It's been fantastic for the family and for me as a career move. It was a good move.
That's great. Actually, one of my best friends lives in Cincinnati. His name is Matthew Dinar, and he is a big HR guy with Procter & Gamble, which is their big headquarters.
Yeah, lots of businesses in Cincinnati, and it's P&G obviously is big there. Fifth Third is big there. They Kroger's big there. Macy's. I mean, they've got GE has a huge part of their business there, their aviation business.
City on 7 Hills, right?
I've not heard that.
Oh,
That's
really?
possible.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm still the new guy, though.
All
So
right.
there's a lot of things that I don't, they call it Queen City.
That's
I
right,
hear that
yeah.
one a lot. And,
But Charlotte calls themselves that, too.
everyone
you know
calls
that?
them. I think a lot of more
Yeah.
call themselves that.
And what about Dwight Farrell? I had him on our CEO panel yesterday. He's CEO of Sorta. Do you all work with them?
We do. We do
Okay.
work with them a lot. Well, we work with each other locally. We don't contract with them at all, but we
Okay.
do work with. We work when we can, and we attend a lot of the same events and things like that. So we have a good communication with them as well.
So a CEO like you, do you have to travel a lot? Your footprint is over the whole country, so do you have to be on the road a lot?
Yeah, certainly North America primarily, but I do some work overseas as well, internationally. I do travel quite a bit. Probably 2 weeks a month. Probably
Okay.
I'm on the road generally, which actually is less than I've done in my career,
I
but
understand.
more than I'd like sometimes. And there's no substitute for being on the road, and there's no substitute for being out in the. And when I say that, I mean out in the operations, out in the systems, out talking to the clients, talking to the riders, talking to the employees.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for that. You never really understand the business, and you can't understand the challenges that the business has and the opportunities that the business presents unless you're out there.
Right.
Unless you're out there and you really understand what's going on. I think you can find yourself if you stay in your office too long, you can forget what you do.
Yeah.
And that's not good for anybody. And I don't mean that just for this industry. I mean that for any industry.
Sure.
I think you have to be out. You have to be out, and you have to be talking to the people who are doing the heavy lifting. And
So
that is.
how big is First? You do all this traveling. I mean, are you over America and Canada?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
we
tell
have
us a
about
little about your
300 contracts. Yeah, 300 contracts throughout the U.S. and Canada.
Okay.
We operate all fixed route, big fixed route portion of the business. A lot of paratransit work. We do a lot of university shuttle, a lot of airport shuttle. We have
You do BWI, where I'm from.
We do.
Yeah.
Thurgood Marshall. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we operate a fleet maintenance division where we maintain vehicles for all sorts of municipalities, and so we do police and fire and DPW.
Really?
And all
I
sorts
didn't
of
know
stuff.
that.
Yeah, it's a good portion of the business. We just started operating our first rail contract in the U.S. down near Dallas in Denton County, DCTA, which
Texas.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, great place. And then we just started to really expand the footprint of First Transit outside of the U.S. And outside of North America. So we're aside from Canada, we got a lot of business up in Canada as well. But we do some work down in Central America now in Panama,
Really?
and we're doing some work in some other places around the world, and always looking to do some work in other places around the world. And generally, the beauty and the strength, I think, of First Transit, if I can plug,
I want
plug
you to
my
do
company
that.
for a second,
Absolutely, yeah.
is its diversity. The diversity in portfolio, the diversity in people, the diversity, the ability to have all of the different types of work that we do, but have people who can do all of that. People who can do all of the, so they can do fixed transit. They understand fixed transit, fixed route. They understand paratransit. They understand shuttle. And we have people who are experts in all of those areas too. But as a business, we have a very, very diverse portfolio in the sense that we do a lot of different things in a lot of different places. And that gives us from a management perspective, gives us the ability not to be intimidated by anything. And the ability to really just kind of attack any kind of challenge that comes our way and not ever be intimidated in any way because we can handle it. We do so much. So it's a big organization. And in First Group, we have our yellow bus business, we have our Greyhound business. Anything else that kind of comes our way to First Group comes to Transit. So it's kind of and we've got as a consequence, we have just a tremendous management team, tremendous people that, like I said, really are just able to handle all sorts of challenges.
Yeah, you picked up a good one. My buddy Justin Pate, you just picked him up.
Yeah,
Head of business
fantastic.
development. Great guy in the business. His dad was my CEO at the last company I worked
Great
with.
hire.
Yeah.
Justin's a fantastic guy and really has a good sense of the industry and what's going on out there. And he's a great addition to the team, and he's fit right in.
Good.
Really
That's
has fit
good.
right in.
So from your perspective, for the public sector people who are listening, I know that when I got into transportation in 1987, I was not really aware that there's a whole industry of private companies because I worked for the government.
Sure.
We ran our own transit system.
Sure.
So why don't you talk just a little bit as kind of an ambassador from the private sector about Why should public sector folks consider contracting out? Everybody pretty much, 75% of the people contract out their paratransit. But what's the value of contracting out fixed route?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of value in it. I think that the what the private sector can bring is just an immense amount of experience and knowledge that we can bring, because we're operating all over, in many cases, you could say all over the country, but the reality is we're operating all over the world.
Right. You guys
and
are big all over the world.
We can bring all of that to bear here. And what that means is that, you get the value not only of someone who can operate your system well, primarily safely, but efficiently, and really, operate your system well, but utilize all the tools that they've gathered from all of these other parts of the world and all these other systems. The reality of it is, when you look around, there's very few things that have not been dealt with somewhere else. There's very few challenges that someone else has not had.
There's nothing new under the sun. Yeah.
So someone has dealt with it already. And when you have a big organization like ours, we bring that. We also bring expertise in all sorts of different areas. Also maintenance expertise, labor expertise, human resource expertise. But just the operations, the efficiencies you can get. The tools that we have to really drive that, and make your system as efficient as possible. Because ultimately, what you want to provide the best service and the most service you can, and you want to do it as efficiently as possible, don't you?
So efficiency normally means money, right? Some people might say, doing it at less cost. So on average, I know that when I was with Mayflower, I actually did an analysis. This was 15 years ago, of how much we save you if we come in and run your contract. What do you think your savings are from a private sector company operating something versus public sector? Have you done any studies on that? Or
I think it can be significant. I think it's really on a case by case basis. I think it depends on on the system. I think it depends on the situation. But I think that there's never a danger in finding out the answer to that
That's
question.
fair.
If you're a client, is to look at it and say, hey, I'm operating this service and it's costing me X. If I because to me, we are just another alternative.
Right.
We're another alternative. Right. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can operate your system. You can operate it in-house, and there's a lot of different ways you operate it in-house. As part of the municipal government, as part of the county government, you can operate it as a separate agency. You can, and then you look at contracting, and to me, it's just it's very simply just another alternative.
Yeah.
And I think anyone in a position to make a decision about where they're going to best spend their taxpayers' money would want to look at all the alternatives. And I think we are an alternative that stacks up very, very well against all of the other models. And for all the reasons I've just stated, I think that we bring a tremendous amount of expertise to the table, and we can there are lots of things that like I say, we have the experience and the know-how and the knowledge to bring to bear in that community that will really help.
So what are the challenges? So that's the positive side. What are the challenges you face as a big private sector operator, and how are you overcoming them? Are there barriers in the market, or tell us a little about your challenge? What causes you pain as CEO of one of the three largest transit systems in
Well, listen, I mean, I wouldn't say there's any challenges necessarily to the provision of the service. I think that's, we don't have any more challenges than anybody else would have, as far as whether it's public sector or private sector in that sense. Certainly, but obviously we have, we are competing all the time. So our work is out to bid generally every 5 years, not always, but oftentimes, so that is, that's certainly something that we have that procurement that we've got to deal with every 5 years and look to renew that contract, and that's on one hand you can look at that as a challenge. I try to look at it as an opportunity. I look at it as an opportunity to say we need to be really providing our clients with everything that they want, need, and hope for. And if we do that correctly, then they're going to renew us. And then you look at it and say, our job then is to do all of those things.
Right.
So when it comes time for renewal, that they want to keep you around. But certainly, I think that that's something that's different than in the public sector.
Yeah, that's good. if you can hear some background noise, it's because I'm interviewing Brad at the on the second floor of our trapeze booth here on the expo show floor. There's a little bit of noise in the background, but this is actually I wanted to ask you about that too. There's so many vendors. I've never seen a show this big. 800 vendors in all these floors. In your company, do you work a lot with other partners? I know we work with you some. My company does trapeze, but like there's so many different industries here. Are you working with a lot of them?
We do. We have all sorts of partnerships with bus manufacturers, and parts manufacturers.
So you bring
all
that
sorts of technology companies.
That's because you got this macro relationships. You can bring that to a public sector.
Certainly,
agency.
that's something I think again that you talk about the benefits of a private organization. We have the ability, the buying power. You have to remember we're running 300 systems. We're buying for 300 systems. That means we're buying that many tires and that many oil filters and that many air filters and that many, everything.
Yeah.
So our ability to purchase certainly is, and like as I say, for First, it's even more so that because we operate Student and Greyhound, so we have all of those.
Right.
So all in all, we're operating about 70,000 vehicles in North America between all three divisions. So that's a huge amount of buying power.
Yeah.
So certainly we have those relationships. Lots of relationships, obviously, with the trapeze, and we're starting to work now with some other technology companies to work on new innovation and things like that that we're bringing to market.
Good. So, tell me what you think. You've been in this business a long time. When did you start? What year did you start in the business?
1994.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, from your perspective, what is the secret for a good contract? So you've got 300 contracts. What's the secret sauce, from your opinion, that makes you, a safe, efficient, reliable transit system with world-class customer service?
Yeah.
What makes that happen to you? For you?
Sure. Well, certainly, I think everything starts with a good local staff, good general manager.
Yep.
Good general manager, everyone will tell you, good general manager.
Same philosophy.
Yeah, isn't it though? Yeah. Certainly, that's important. But in order to be a good general manager, you have to have really good support. You've got to have good support from the center, and that means that what we want is the ability for our general managers and our staff at the location to really focus on providing the service. That's what they should be focused on, and they shouldn't have to worry about things going on at the center. We really, I always say we provide a service to them. I'm a resource. I'm support to the field.
That's
really
great. That's a good philosophy.
And it has to be there. It has to be your philosophy because the reality of it is that's where the heavy lifting is going on. Those guys are doing the hard work out in the field, and my job is to make their lives easier. My job is to make it easier for them to do their job day in and day out, so that they can really focus on providing the best, safest, quality service that they can provide. So you start with a good GM. You give them a lot of support. You give them a lot of training, so they understand what's going on out there. You bring to bear all the things we talked about, which is your understanding from around the world. We're able to bring in learnings and training from all over the world. I was just talking to one of our guys. We're bringing in some new safety training from our UK bus division.
Wow,
which
nice.
is on which is really great work that they've done over there focused on. This one happens to be focused on passenger safety when stopping and starting from bus stops, but that's just we do things like that all the time, so if you can get a good quality person in there, you can support them, keep them, you want them to be motivated, you want them to be able to really just attack their job and really do the best they can. That will lead you to really what you ultimately want, which is a really great partnership with your client and with the community in which you operate. Because that's why we do this.
I've actually been very impressed. So First Transit's been really like a customer of mine in two places. So I was at WMATA, and I oversaw as director of operations their paratransit, and then in Baltimore where I was CEO. And one of the things I was impressed with your company about is that you weave yourself into the fabric of the community. A lot of companies don't do that. Do you see a value in that?
We do.
Not just at bid time.
No. In actuality, we have a thing we call areas of expertise, where we really focus on 4 areas of expertise. Ours happen to be disciplined operations, consumer engagement, which is mostly technology, employee engagement, which is very important. Obviously, the employees are everything, right? But the last one, and not the least of which, is the one that I actually started up, which is our community engagement. It's one of the most important ones. And to me, it's always been a real important thing. And it's just an obvious thing to me, which is that, you need to become part of the community. You are, and for the most part, that shouldn't be a stretch, right?
Yeah.
You should be part of the community.
But a lot of companies only do it at bid time, and people see right through it.
Now, I think the reality of it is, we have such good people working with us, and those people are involved in a lot of different areas in the community. They're doing all sorts of work in their community, and oftentimes, you may not know about it, but the reality is they're doing it. We like to kind of bring that together and make sure that we're supporting that any way that we can. So what we do is what assistance can we provide? What else can we do as an organization to help you, the local team, to become involved in the community? What can we do to become involved in the community? You should be involved in the local Kiwanis Club. You should be involved in the local Red Cross. You should be. Why? Because you live there.
Right.
You know, that's the reality of it. Our people, we're not interlopers. We're not people from, we're people who live in the community. We're people who live in the community. They raise children in the community. Their kids go to school in the community. They do all sorts of things, and for a lot, for most of them, they are involved in the community already.
Right.
But our job as the employer is to figure out how can we support that? How can we make it easier for them to do that? And how can we give them the time and the resource that they need to go do those things, because it's important to us.
That's good. So we got a couple minutes left. Could you talk a little bit about what innovations you see coming to the American transit market? I'm a firm believer that transportation is probably going to have the most changes almost of any industry other than the medical field in the next 10 years. What do you see coming?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think it has, it really has seen a massive change. You've been around a little bit, I've been around a little bit. For a long time, there wasn't a whole lot of change.
That's right.
But real time GPS changed everything, didn't it? Changed everything. And I think now we're seeing kind of the second wave, which is the next thing that's going to really just transform this industry. And I think you're seeing that a number of ways. I think on the fixed route side, you're seeing it with AV, autonomous vehicles. And in that, I would include kind of shuttle work. Sure. And I think that the reality of it is, autonomous vehicles are definitely going to have an impact on the industry. I think they're definitely going to change. I think that the day will come when there will be autonomous vehicles running on fixed routes. But I think before that happens, where you're really going to see it is, I think you're going to see it more in the shuttle industry, because I think you've got closed environments. It's a much more conducive environment to operate in. So I think you're going to see it at you're going to see it in airports. You're going to see it at universities. You're going to see it on corporate campuses. You're going to see it all over. I think that's where you're going to see that the first, and then ultimately, I think you are going to see it in fixed route. Now, I always say that can it doesn't take long. The iPhone's been around for 10 years, and that changed everything, right?
Now, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So technology moves very quickly. On the paratransit side, I think really what you're seeing is the new model, the TNC model, this on-demand model.
Yes.
Which I think is going to change things dramatically. Depending on what study you read, but I'd say about 3/4 of the group of the people who travel on paratransit vehicles are ambulatory. They're able to access vehicles without a wheelchair, things like that. That is going to change because of that. The introduction of the TNC model and the on-demand and the availability of that is going to ultimately change the industry. Now, there are barriers to it. There's certainly the situation now where everyone's kind of trying to figure out with background checking, drug and alcohol,
DC.
Yeah, and all of the other regulatory issues. But you know what? I was just reading a book about this, about this very thing, and the punchline on it was that if the community wants it badly enough, you'll be able to get over those barriers at some point.
Yes.
So I think those barriers will be overcome, and that'll be from both sides. I think that the on-demands will maybe compromise a bit, and maybe some of the barriers will be compromised a bit, but ultimately it will change. It'll look different. I don't know the ultimately what the total impact will be, but I can tell you that it will be changed. It will be different. It'll be different than it is today. These vehicles are out there. They're available. And the fact of the matter is they're going to be utilized in some form or fashion. I think our job in the industry is to figure out how that's going to happen, and to do it in a way that we're comfortable with and that ensures the passengers have safe, reliable transportation. But I think that if to think that it's not going to have an effect, I think is just frankly a bit naive. I think that it's coming, and we now have to figure out, okay, how do we best introduce it, and how do we best it's being introduced now, but how do we best make sure that we, as I say, we're providing safe, reliable transportation. The thing you have to remember is the passenger, and paratransit has a very different passenger.
Yes.
And oftentimes they're vulnerable mentally, physically, emotionally, and all sorts of different things. We've got to remember that, and we've got to make sure that we are providing that any change in the way that we provide service is done with them in mind, and that we make sure that we're conscious of that, and that we're gonna keep that front of mind.
Great way to close it out. Transit's focused on the customer experience. And I think that's the big wave right now. My guest today on Transit Unplugged has been the president, Brad Thomas of First Transit, one of the largest transportation companies in the world, and clearly here in the United States. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much, Paul.
You've been listening to Transit Unplugged, powered by Trapeze Group. To stay up to date, subscribe on iTunes or Google Play, or join the conversation at transitunplugged.com. Thanks for listening.